Hi everybody, I'm Ruechel and you're watching the PCS Journal, where today we're talking with folks within Pinellas County Schools about what it is they do and how it applies to you. Joining me right now is Kevin Hendrick, whose official title is Associate Superintendent, Teaching and Learning Services. Kevin, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely, Al.
Okay, I love it because there are always anachronisms for what everybody means. So I have been hearing about this B.E.S.T deal. What is that? Is that a phrase? Is it a slogan? What? Tell me about it.
So it is another acronym. The B.E.S.T standards, benchmarks for excellent student thinking, are the new standards that our students will have to master here in the state of Florida. So go back, for those who have been following education over the last 20 years, we had the Sunshine State standards.
Oh, okay.
Then we sort of adopted the Common Core for a brief minute. We changed those to the Florida standards, and now we're changing the Florida standards to the B.E.S.T standards.
Now this applies to teaching all through Pinellas County Schools and all schools throughout the state.
So the B.E.S.T standards are K-12 standards, starting in kindergarten, going all through 12th grade, and it applies to every school in the state. And our state board has already adopted them. So the governor came into office and he said he wanted to rid our Florida standards of any trace of Common Core and put together some groups across the state, did some listening tours, very quickly came up with these new standards, and the state board approved them in February.
Okay, I know you can't go through all of them, but just give me an idea of what its goal is and then some of the implementing tools or guidelines that you're going to be using.
Sure. So we've got math standards and English language arts standards are really the two groups of courses that have been revised in this process. There's some ancillary standards that maybe we'll get into in a few minutes, but really in mathematics, the tough part, Al, that a lot of parents said is this doesn't look like the math that I remember when I was a kid.
Boy,
right?
that's for sure.
Where's our fluency and memorizing times tables and understanding basic facts? So some of that is back in these standards, and it really was never gone, but the standards under Common Core and then the Florida standards were very conceptual and a lot less procedural. So these take us back to the procedures. It doesn't change the fact that we still need to know algebraic expressions. It doesn't change that we need number sense, that we need to know geometry, that we need to know probability and statistics. But how do we get to that point? And it's a greater focus on getting right answers as opposed to using strategies to get to those answers.
Now, delve a little deeper on that because I'm not sure I quite understand that line.
Sure. So let's say I want to understand what 8 times 8 is, right?
Yes.
So you and I probably learned that just 64, right? We're going to memorize it until we know it, right? But in the way we've been teaching students the last decade is to say, let's look at the different things that represents. So we may use a mathematical term called an array, and you may draw out 8 sides down here and 8 going across here and see how that visually represents 64 so that you understand the concept of what multiplication is, and not just the fact that you can memorize. Because those memorization skills, while they're very critical early in life, and they're critical as you do regular math in your everyday life as an adult, if you're going to get into higher levels of mathematics, into calculus, into different forms of engineering, you're going to need to understand the conceptual frameworks, because you're not going to be able to memorize some of the mathematical things later on in math.
Is it working? It's not that I'm confused, but I can't imagine anything, having these numbers on the top of my head. And I do understand because, algebra freaks people out.
Yeah.
It really does. They just go like, ah!
So the answer to is it working is it depends who you ask, right?
Oh, okay, okay.
If you ask some mathematicians and higher levels, they'll say yes, our students are becoming more conceptual. They're becoming more proficient on some international exams and things like that. If you ask most parents, if you ask students, some of the basic fluency and practice things, they say, well, I don't think it's where it was when I remember having to memorize it and do time tests and things like that. So some of that's coming back, which is a good thing. We believe as a school district, we think the new standards are very much more specific, and they are much more clear on some basic things that we need to do, and we think that's a good thing.
I went to an elementary school because I was doing, when I was at Bay News 9, A-plus teachers, and I had a 3rd grader try to explain something they were doing with paper plates, and I got so confused as they were moving around there. But anyway, math was not my favorite subject, but I did memorize very well. Yeah. So what are some of the other standards that we're talking about? You talked about math and English now.
Yeah, so in English language arts, Al, there's only so many ways you can study a text, right? I mean, you need to become fluent in a reader, you need to understand text, you need to comprehend it, you need to be able to analyze it. So some of the language is tweaked a little bit, but in general, the English language arts standards are not, the changes aren't as significant as math. but they are more specific as well. And one of the new parts to the English Language Arts standards is foundational standards. So let's say you're in 5th grade and you're not yet a fluent reader, which is a problem, obviously. What are the foundational standards that your 5th grade teacher should be touching on with you, in addition to what you should also be getting in 5th grade? So there's a much greater emphasis on some of the early things around decoding, around phonics, around phonemic awareness. Not that those weren't present in the early standards, but now it's getting much more specific to make sure that teachers very clearly understand the things that they're supposed to teach.
Do we still have this debate about phonics? Because this is one of these things, you pick up phrases through years with our 4 kids and now all of our grandkids.
Yes, so the reading wars rage on even today, and the idea of reading science and who owns the science, it's a very big deal. But suffice to say that a key part of this is making sure that our students are able to read by 2nd and 3rd grade.
Okay.
And so that's a key emphasis for us. It always has been. We've put greater emphasis on all of the parts so that really we're not choosing a side of the reading war, but we're doing both, right? So we're making kids to love books, we're surrounding them in great literature, but we're also teaching them the decoding and fluency skills that they need.
So the B.E.S.T standards are in place now?
So the B.E.S.T standards are not in place now. We're still under the Florida standards, and we'll continue under the Florida standards in terms of assessments until the 22-23 school year.
And then we'll take a breath because the new test scores will probably freak us out because every time
we will.
All right.
But there's some other things, Al, that are related to this adoption of B.E.S.T standards that are also changing it. And again, we think some of these things are good. So one of them is a greater emphasis on financial literacy.
Okay.
So in the math standards, there's new standards around financial literacy, whereas in the past, we sort of touched on those in economics, maybe you got a little bit in algebra.
Yeah.
Now they're called out specifically. So over the course of the next year, these new financial literacy standards will actually be placed into math courses in high school, and there'll be requirements of those math courses.
Okay.
So figuring out a mortgage calculation,
Yeah, that's
understanding debt, understanding credit cards. Again, we've touched on those in economics, but now they'll be part of math and required.
All right, because we're trying to cover 2 subjects here, I see this badge on you that says College and Career Center.
Yes.
What is that new?
So we have started a new program this year. We've been talking about elevating excellence. I think I may have even been on the program last year to talk about it with you.
Sure.
But as part of that, we're embedding these college and career centers into high schools to bring greater support to students and families for a personalized path to college success.
All right, now one of the things we're going to do right now is we have a little piece that we put together to kind of show you the process and how these are set up. So roll the tape, as they say, and let's take a look at the College and Career Centers.
The College and Career Center is a new investment.
The vision behind it is to just provide more resources and opportunities, and also just to have a one-stop place where they can come in and get support.
They learn about different college options, they learn about the admissions process, they learn about financial aid, scholarships.
Preparing for the SAT or even just signing up for the SAT.
I like the safe environment. It makes you feel welcome when you walk in the room. It doesn't make you feel like you're a stranger to these people.
The school counseling team and the College and Career Centers work together.
As a school counselor, I talk with kids day in and day out about their plans for their future. The College and Career Center has been extremely valuable for our students.
We're able to explore whether they've thought about every aspect when it comes to figuring out their plans for after high school.
I enjoy coming here because there's so many opportunities out here that I wouldn't know about. I learned about B.E.S.T, college applications, scholarships, a lot of stuff goes on here.
I like the College and Career Center for its easy access and the ability to walk in and just know what you need to know in a very short amount of time.
And no matter how much you think you're prepared, coming in here, you will always come out way better than you were before.
Without the College and Career Center, I believe most of the scholarships and grants and everything that I learned about, I probably wouldn't know about now.
They're here to help you just as much as anyone else. They want to see you succeed, so they're going to help you every step of the way that they can.
We bring the college advisors in to meet with them as it's needed. We keep the schedule here for any time a college rep is coming to the school, and we talk with them about the importance of building relationships.
They can do career assessments. We have a variety of tools and resources that help students figure out what exactly that they want to do.
It's helped me a lot to figure out if I want to go to college, what I'm going to major in, what job I want in the future. It's really helped me make a plan for myself to figure out what I want to do with my life.
The volunteers have helped because a lot of them have backgrounds and knowledge in a lot of different aspects of life. So they really give me a new perspective on possible things I can look into the future.
If we sit down and have a whole conversation about college, I get a better understanding of what I can do to help benefit me in the future after high school.
Para mí el valor que tiene este centro como que me da esperanzas de seguir estudiando, como que me apoya mucho en mis estudios de lo que yo quiero estudiar. Usted me ayuda demasiado para que yo pueda seguir siguiendo estudiando y yo pueda llegar al college.
I really believe in what we're doing and the impact that it can have on the kids.
If you really want to do something, you'll have the means to get it. And the College Career Center makes it a heck of a lot easier.
They're going to be encouraged to dream big and, go for it.
Well, that's really interesting. Now, does this take the place of guidance counselors?
It does not take the place of school counselors. What it is, Al, is we know that our school counselors have a student to counselor ratio of, in a good school 1 to 300, in a big school 1 to 500. So how do we continue to support students in this college going path? And the College and Career Centers are one way to do that. So we're excited that we're recruiting volunteers who can come into the College and Career Centers and help students along this path. So the guidance counselor is still the person who's the expert, but what are some of the skills and other things that students need? So maybe it's walking a student through college financial aid. Maybe it's getting them set up on a scholarship site. Perhaps it's doing a college match situation where the student is entering some information about themselves and then finding out what colleges have similar majors in their interest. So the counselor then can take those results and now have a quick conversation with a student to guide them on that next step, where the volunteer may be there to help them get through a 30-minute or 40-minute overview.
Yeah.
But other things that are really important as part of this implementation of the College and Career Center are specific strategies and in-school opportunities for students to prep for college entrance exams.
Oh, okay.
That's a really key component. We know, whether we like it or not, that college entrance exams, SAT and ACT, are gatekeepers for students in colleges. So how do we get our students who maybe can't stay after school, can't come all weekend on a Saturday because they're working or they're watching a little brother or sister, how do we help them get some of those skills during their lunchtime? Maybe during a class that they can come down and get some tutoring for 30 minutes. So we're really excited about this. As you saw in the video, it's in 5 schools. We'll be expanding to 6 more next year.
Great.
And eventually to all of our traditional high schools.
Yeah, and you teach people about, here's the dreaded word, the FAFSA. Oh no!
Yes.
The student financial aid thing.
Yes.
We had 4 kids, so I remember filling out the first one, going, they say I can afford how much? I don't even make that. How can I afford that kind of stuff? Because financing is always, and also deadlines. I noticed that for students and even for parents, those deadlines kept slipping away.
Absolutely.
It's like, oh my gosh, I should have done that in November, not in March or April.
So we have students who we know are interested in college. Either they've self-identified or we're helping to identify them through their coursework that they have. They've got a good GPA, they've got good test scores. So we're reaching out to those students, bringing them into the center and saying, hey, here's your opportunities, right? But also a key component, Al, is parents. We don't want to fill students with an idea of, hey, you can go to Stanford and mom and dad, here's your bill, right?
Yeah.
We want to bring the parent in also to say, here are the possibilities. We want you to know every possibility available. Now you make the decision that's best for your family.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are important decisions. All right, Kevin, thank you so much. Great information. I could have used them and gone back and maybe would have told me to be a bricklayer or something. I don't know. And I went into broadcasting. None of my counselors said I would make a good broadcaster, but I guess we faked them out one more time. All right, Kevin, College and Career Center. Look for it in your schools, if not coming next year or so. We're back with more of our program right after this.